The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Part 5. In the morning when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present. I am rising to the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Or have I been made for this, to lie in the bedclothes and keep myself warm? But this is more pleasant. Do you exist then to take your pleasure, and not at all for action or exertion? Do you not see the little plants, the little birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees working together to put in order their several parts of the universe? And are you unwilling to do the work of a human being? And do you not make haste to do that which is according to thy nature? But it is necessary to take rest as well. It is necessary. However, nature has fixed bounds to this as well. She has fixed bounds both to eating and drinking, and yet you go beyond these bounds, beyond what is sufficient for you. Yet, in your acts, it is not so. But you stop short of what you can do. So you love not yourself, for if you did, you would love thy nature and her will. But those who love their several arts exhaust themselves in working at them unwashed and without food. But you value your own nature less than the turner values the turning art, or the dancer the dancing art, or the lover of money values his money, or the vainglorious man of his little glory. And such men, when they have a violent affection to a thing, choose neither to eat nor to sleep rather than to perfect the things which they care for. But they are the acts which concern society. And are they acts which concern society more vile in your eyes and less worthy of your labor? How easy it is to repel and to wipe away every impression which is troublesome or unsuitable, and immediately to be in all tranquillity. Judge every word and deed which are according to nature to be fit for you, and be not diverted by the blame which follows from any people, nor by their words. But if a thing is good to be done or said, do not consider it unworthy of you. For those persons have their peculiar leading principle and follow their peculiar movement, which things do not thou regard, but go straight on, following thy own nature and the common nature, and the way of both is one. I go through the things which happen according to nature until I shall fall and rest, breathing out my breath into that element out of which I daily draw in it, and falling upon that earth out of which my father collected the seed, and my mother the blood, and my nurse the milk, out of which during so many years I have been supplied with food and drink, which bears me when I tread on it and abuse it for so many purposes. You say, men cannot admire the sharpness of your wits. Be it so. But there are many other things of which you cannot say, I am not formed for them by nature. Show those qualities then which are altogether in your power: sincerity, gravity, endurance of labor, aversion to pleasure, contentment with thy portion and with few things, benevolence, frankness, no love of things that are not suitable for you, freedom from trifling, magnanimity. Do you not see how many qualities that you are immediately able to exhibit, in which there is no excuse of natural incapacity and unfitness, and yet you still remain voluntarily below the mark? Or are you compelled through being defectively furnished by nature to murmur, and to be stingy, and to flatter, and to find fault with your poor body, and to try to please men, and to make great display, and to be restless in your mind? No, by the gods, but you might have been delivered from these things long ago, only if in truth you can be changed or charged with being rather slow and dull of comprehension. You must exert yourself about this as well, not neglecting it, nor yet taking pleasure in your dullness. One man, when he has done a service to another, is ready to set it down to his account as a favor conferred. Another is not ready to do this, but still in his own mind he thinks of the man as his debtor, and he knows what he has done. A third, in a manner, does not even know what he has done, but he is like a vine which has produced grapes, and seeks for nothing more after it has once produced its proper fruit. As a horse when he has run, a dog when he has tracked the game, a bee when it has made the honey, so a man when he has done good or done a good act does not call out for others to come and see, but he does so and goes on to another act, as a vine goes on to produce again the grapes in season. Must a man then be one of these, who in a manner act thus without observing it? Yes. But this very thing is necessary, the observation of what a man is doing, for it may be said it is characteristic of the social animal to perceive that he is working in a social manner, and indeed to wish that his social partner also should perceive it as well. It is true what you say, but you do not rightly understand what is now said, and for this reason you will become one of those of whom I spoke before, for even they are misled by a certain show of reason. But if you will choose to understand the meaning of what is said, do not fear that for this reason you will omit any social act. A prayer of the Athenians. Rain, rain, O dear Zeus, down on the plowed fields of the Athenians and on the plains. In truth, we ought not to pray at all, or we ought to pray in this simple and noble fashion. And just as we must understand when it is said that many have prescribed to many men horse exercise, or bathing in cold water, or going without shoes, and so we must understand it when it is said that the nature of the universe prescribed to a man disease or mutilation or loss of anything else of the kind. For in the first case, prescribed means something like this. You may prescribe this for this man as a thing adapted to produce health, and in the second case it means that which happens to our suits or of every man is fixed in a manner for him suitably to his destiny. For this is what we mean when we say that things are suitable to us, as the workmen say of squared stones and walls or the pyramids, that they are suitable when they fit them to one another in some kind of connection. For there is altogether one fitness or harmony, and as the universe is made up of all the bodies to be such a body as it is, so out of all existing causes, necessity or destiny is made up to be such a cause as it is. And even those who are completely ignorant understand what I mean, for they say necessity or destiny brought this to such a person. But then this then was brought, and this was prescribed to him. Let us then receive these things as well as those which prescribe. Many, as a matter of course, even among his prescriptions, are disagreeable, but we accept them in the hope of health. Let the perfecting and accomplishment of the things which the common nature judges to be good be judged by you to be of the same kind as your health, and so accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to this, to the health of the universe and to the prosperity and felicity of Zeus, the universe itself. For he would not have brought on any man what he has brought, if it were not useful for the whole. Neither does the nature of anything, whatever it may be, cause anything which is not suitable to that which is directed by it. For two reasons, then, it is right to be content with that which happens to you. The one, because it was done for you and prescribed for you, and in a manner had a reference to you, originally from the most ancient causes spun with thy destiny. And the other, because even that which comes severally to every man is to the power which administers the universe, a cause of felicity and perfection, no, even of its very continuance. For the integrity of the whole is mutilated, if you cut off anything whatever from the conjunction and the continuity of either the parts or of the causes. And you as well cut off as far as it is in your power when you are dissatisfied, and in a manner try to put anything out of the way. Be not disgusted, nor discouraged, nor dissatisfied, if you do not succeed in doing everything according to right principles. But when you have failed, return back again, and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with man's nature, and love this to which you return. And do not return to philosophy, as if she were a master, but act like those who have sore eyes and apply a bit of sponge and egg, or as another applies a plaster, or drenching with water. For you will not fail to obey reason, and you will repose in it. And remember that philosophy requires only the things which your nature requires, but you would not have something else. which is not according to nature. It may be objected, why? What is more agreeable than this, which I am doing? But is not this the very reason why pleasure deceives us? And consider if freedom, simplicity, piety are not more agreeable. For what is more agreeable than wisdom itself, when you think of the security and the happy course of all things, which depend on the faculty of understanding and knowledge? Things are in such a kind of envelopment that they have seemed to philosophers, not a few, nor those common philosophers, altogether unintelligible. No, even to the Stoics themselves they seem difficult to understand. And all our assent is changeable, for where is the man who never changes? Carry your thoughts, then, to the objects themselves, and consider how short-lived they are, and worthless, and that they may be in the possession of a filthy wretch, or a whore, or a robber. Then turn to the morals of those who live with you, and it is hardly possible to endure even the most agreeable of them, to say nothing of a man being hardly able to endure himself. In such darkness, then, and dirt, and in so constant a flux, both of substance and of time, and of motion and of things moved, what there is worth of being highly prized, or even an object of serious pursuit, I cannot even imagine. But on the contrary, it is a man's duty to comfort himself, to wait for the natural dissolution, and not to be vexed at the delay, but to rest in these principles only: the one, that nothing will happen to me which is not conformable to the nature of the universe, and the other, that it is in my power never to act contrary to my God and demon, for there is no man who will compel me to this. About what I am now employing my own soul. On every occasion I must ask myself this question and inquire, what have I now in this part of me which they call the ruling principle? And whose soul have I now? That of a child or of a young man? Of a feeble woman or that of a tyrant? Of a domestic animal or that of a wild beast? What kind of things those which are those which appear good to the many? We may learn even from this. For if a man should conceive certain things as being really good, such as prudence, temperance, justice, fortitude, he would not, after having first conceived these, endure to listen to anything which should not be in harmony with what is really good. But if a man has first conceived as good the things which appear to the many to be good, he will listen and readily receive, as very applicable, that which was said by the comic writer. Thus even the many perceive the difference, for were it not so, the saying would not offend and would not be rejected in the first case, while we receive it when it is said of wealth, and of the means which further luxury and fame, as said fitly and wittily. Go on, then, and ask if we should value and think those things to be good, to which, after their first conception in the mind, the words of the comic writer might be aptly applied, that he who has them, through pure abundance, has not a place to ease himself in. I am composed of the formal and of the material, and neither of them will perish into non-existence, as neither of them came into existence out of non-existence. Every part of me then will be reduced by change into some part of the universe, and that again will change into another part of the universe, and so on, forever. And by consequence of such a change I too exist, and those who begat me, and so on forever in the other direction. For nothing hinders us from saying so, even if the universe is administered according to definite periods. Reason and the reasoning art, that of philosophy, are powers which are sufficient for themselves and for their own works. They move then from a first principle which is their own, and they make their way to the end which is proposed to them. And this is the reason why such acts are named right acts, which word signifies that they proceed by the right road. None of these things ought to be called a man's which do not belong to a man as man. They are not required of a man, nor does man's nature promise them, nor are they the means of man's nature attaining its end. Neither then does the end of man lie in these things, nor yet that which aids to the accomplishment of this end, and that which aids toward this end is that which is good. Besides, if any of these things did belong to man, it would not be right for a man to despise them, and to set himself against them. Nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things, nor would he who stinted himself in any of them be good, if indeed these things were good. But now the more of these things a man deprives himself of, or of other things like them, or even when he is deprived of any of them, the more patiently he endures the loss, just in the same degree he is a better man. Such as are your habitual thoughts, such also will be the character of your mind. For the soul is dyed by the thoughts. Dye it, then, with a continuous series of such thoughts as these. For instance, that where a man can live, there he can also live well. But he must live in a palace. Well, then, he can also live well in a palace. And, again, consider that for whatever purpose each thing has been constituted, for this it has been constituted, and toward this it is carried. And its end is in that toward which it is carried. And where the end is, there also is the advantage and the good of each thing. The good for the reasonable animal is society, for that we are made for society has been shown. It is not plain that the inferior exist for the sake of the superior, but the things which have life are superior to those which have not, and of those which have life, the superior are those which have reason. To seek what is impossible is madness, and it is impossible that the bad should not do something of this kind. Nothing happens to any man which he is not formed by nature to bear. The same things happen to another, and either because he does not see that they have happened, or because he would show a great spirit, he is firm and remains unharmed. It is a shame, then, that ignorance and conceit should be stronger than wisdom. Things themselves touch not the soul, not in the least degree, nor have they admission to the soul, nor can they turn or move the soul. But the soul turns and moves itself alone, and whatever judgments that it may think proper to make, such it makes for itself the things which present themselves to it. In one respect, man is the nearest thing to me, so far as I must do good to men and endure them. But so far as some men make themselves obstacles to my proper acts, man becomes to me one of the things which are indifferent, no less than the sun or wind or a wild beast. Now it is true that these may impede my action, but they are no impediments to my effects and disposition, which have the power of acting conditionally and changing. For the mind converts and changes every hindrance to its activity into an aid, and so that which is a hindrance is made a furtherance to an act, and that which is an obstacle on the road helps us on the road. Reverence that which is best in the universe, and this is that which makes use of all things and directs all things. And in like manner also reverence that which is best in thyself, and this is of the same kind as that. For in yourself also that which makes use of everything else is this, and your life is directed by this. That which does no harm to the state does no harm to the citizen. In the case of every appearance of harm, apply this rule. If the state is not harmed by this, neither am I harmed. But if the state is harmed, you must not be angry with him who does harm to the state. Show him where his error lies. Often think of the rapidity with which things pass by and disappear, both the things which are and the things which are produced. For substance is like a river in a continual flow, and the activities of things are in constant change, and the causes work in infinite varieties, and there is hardly anything which stands still. And also consider this which is near to you, this boundless abyss of the past and of the future, in which all things disappear. How then is he not a fool who is puffed up with such things, or plagued about them, or makes himself miserable? For they vex him only for a time, and a short time. And so think of the universal substance, of which you have a very small portion, and of universal time, of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you, and of that which is fixed by destiny, and how small a part of it you are. Does another do me wrong? Let him look to it. He has his own disposition, his own activity. I now have what the universal nature wills me to have, and I do what my nature now wills me to do. Let the part of your soul which leads and governs be undisturbed by the movements in the flesh, whether of pleasure or of pain, and let it not unite with them, but let it circumscribe itself and limit those effects to their parts. But when these effects rise up to the mind by virtue of that other sympathy and that naturally exists in a body which is all one, then you must not strive to resist the sensation, for it is natural, but let not the ruling part of itself add to the sensation the opinion that it is either good or bad. Live with the gods. And he does live with the gods, who constantly shows to them that his own soul is satisfied with that which is assigned to him, and that it does all that the demon wishes, which Zeus has given to every man for his guardian and guide, a portion of himself, and this is every man's understanding and reason. Are you angry with him whose armpits stink? Are you angry with him whose mouth smells foul? What good will this anger do thee? He has such a mouth, he has such armpits. It is necessary that such an emanation must come from such things. But the man has reason, it will be said, and he is able, if he takes pains to discover wherein he offends. I wish thee well of thy discovery. Well then, and thou hast reason, by thy rational faculties stir up his rational faculties, show him his error, admonish him. For if he listens, you will cure him, and there is no need of anger, neither tragic actor nor whore. And as thou intends to live when you are gone out, so it is in your power to live here. But if men do not permit thee, then get away out of life, yet so as if you were suffering no harm. The house is smoky, and I quit it. Why do you think that this is any trouble? But so long as nothing of the kind drives me out, I remain. I am free, and so man will hinder me from doing what I choose, and I choose to do what is according to the nature of the rational and the social animal. The intelligence of the universe is social. Accordingly, it has made the inferior things for the sake of the superior, and it has fitted the superior to one another. You see how it has subordinated, coordinated, and assigned to everything its proper portion, and has brought together into concord with one another the things which are the best. How have you behaved hitherto to the gods, thy parents, your brothers, children, teachers, to those who looked after your infancy, to your friends, your kinsfolk, to your slaves? Consider if you have hitherto behaved to all in such a way as this may be said of thee. Never has wronged a man in deed or word. And call to reconciliation, or recollection rather, both how many things you have passed, though, and how many things that you have been able to endure, and that the history of your life is now complete, and your service is ended, and how many beautiful things you have seen, how many pleasures and pains that you have despised and experienced, how many things called honorable you have spurned, how many ill-minded folks that you have shown a kind disposition. Why do unskilled and ignorant souls disturb him who has skill and knowledge? What soul, then, has skill and knowledge? That which knows beginning and end, and knows the reason which pervades all substance, and through all time, by fixed periods, administers the universe. And soon and very soon you will be ashes or a skeleton, and neither a name nor even a name, but name is sound and echo, and the things which are much valued in life are empty and rotten and trifling, and like little dogs biting one another, and little children quarreling and laughing, and then straightway weeping. But fidelity and modesty and justice and truth are fled. From Hesiod's works, it is said, quote, up to Olympus from the widespread earth, end quote. What then is there which still detains thee here? If the objects of sense are easily changed and never stand still, and the organs of perception are dull and easily receive false impressions, and the poor soul itself is an exhalation from blood, but to have good repute amid such a world as this is an empty thing, why then do you not wait in tranquillity for your end, whether it is extinction or removal to another state? And until that time comes, what is sufficient? Why, what else, then, to venerate the gods and bless them, and to do good to men, and to practice tolerance and self-restraint? But as to everything which is beyond the limits of the poor flesh and breath, to remember that this is neither thine, nor in your power. You cannot pass your life in an equable flow of happiness if you cannot go by the right way and think and act in the right way. These two things are common both to the soul of God and to the soul of man and to the soul of every rational being, not to be hindered by another, and to hold good to consist in the disposition to justice and the practice of it, and in this to let yourself desire and your desire find its termination. If this is neither my own badness nor an effect of my own badness, and the common weal is not injured, why am I troubled about it? And what is the harm to the commonwealth? Do not be carried along inconsiderately by the appearance of things, but give help to all, according to thy ability and their fitness. And if they should have sustained loss in matters which are indifferent, do not imagine this to be a damage. For it is a bad habit. But as the old man, when he went away, asked back his foster child's top, remembering that it was a top, so do thou in this case also. When you are calling out on the rostra, have you forgotten, man, what these things are? Yes, but they are objects of great concern to these people. Will you too then be made a fool for these things? I was once a fortunate man, but I lost the fortune. I know not how. But fortunate means that a man has assigned to himself a good fortune, and a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, and good actions.